Maria broke down. Ethan sat beside her. Quietly, respectfully, she looked at him, a tear sliding down her cheek. "You saved my baby. I don't even know your name." "I'm Ethan," he said. "Oh, why?" she asked again, softer. "Why would someone like you stop for someone like me? B?" Ethan paused, then gave her the first honest answer he'd spoken in years. "Because I know what it's like to be invisible, and to wish someone would notice." It had been 2 days since Ethan found Maria and her baby in the rain. The baby, now known as Noah, was recovering steadily. The fever had dropped, his breathing improved, and the doctors were confident he'd be discharged soon. But Maria still sat on edge, like a person expecting the ground to collapse beneath her at any moment. She wore a clean change of clothes now. Her hair had been washed. Her cheeks were less hollow. But her eyes still carried a weight that couldn't be washed away with soap or comfort. Ethan watched her silently from the hospital hallway. She hadn't asked for anything. Not money, not pity, not even his name. And perhaps that was what made him want to give her something more. Late that night, Ethan returned to his penthouse. He poured himself a glass of scotch but didn't drink it. He stood in front of the large window, looking out at the lights of the city. In the reflection of the glass, he didn't see a billionaire. He saw the 17-year-old boy he used to be, standing in the rain on the night his parents died. No one had stopped for him either. No one noticed his pain. He remembered the days he'd gone hungry, the nights he'd slept in bus terminals. It was only years later when an elderly woman in a church shelter took him in, gave him food, and made him believe he still had worth. He'd never forgotten that moment. Maria reminded him of that same type of silent dignity. He picked up his phone and made a call. Ethan brought her dry clothes. Nothing fancy, just simple warmth from the hospital's donation locker. He left her with space. No cameras, no charity forms, no judgments, just presence. Make the guest room ready, Ethan told his housekeeper. "We may have someone staying with us for a while." A mother and a child. There was a pause on the other end. "Sir, is this someone you know?" "No," Ethan said. "But that doesn't matter." The next morning, Maria sat by Noah's crib in the pediatric recovery ward. She had been there all night. When Ethan walked in, she looked up cautiously. She still wasn't sure who he was or why he was helping her, but she'd stopped asking. She was too exhausted for suspicion. Ethan pulled a chair beside her and spoke quietly. "Our son is stable. He'll be released in a couple of days." Maria nodded. "I want to offer you something," he said gently. No strings attached. Just a chance." She blinked, unsure what that meant. "You don't have to go back to the streets." Maria looked away. "You don't understand," she said bitterly. "It's not just about shelter. I don't have papers. No ID, no job history. Say, I've been out of the system for so long that I practically don't exist." Ethan didn't flinch. "All you exist to your son and to me now." That silenced her. Ethan continued. "I have space, a room in my home. You and Noah can stay there for as long as you need until you're on your feet. No obligations. Just stability." Maria stared at him. "Why? I don't know," he said honestly. Maybe because someone did the same for me when I had nothing." She hesitated. "What if people think I'm just another charity case you rescued for PR?" Ethan almost smiled. "Then they can think what they want." "I don't do anything for public image. You'll find out I avoid cameras like the plague." Maria let out a small, surprised laugh. It was the first time Ethan had seen her smile, even if just for a second. 2 days later, Maria and baby Noah left the hospital in the same Rolls-Royce she had first entered, soaking wet. Only this time, she was dry, warm, and holding her baby with quiet strength. As the car pulled into the underground parking of Ethan's building, she looked up in awe at the towering glass structure above. "Well, this can't be your house," she whispered. "It's home," Ethan replied, not realizing until he said it that he hadn't called it that in years. Maria's new room was simple but beautiful. Soft white curtains, a wooden crib already set up, closets with clean clothes. A note on the table read, "Welcome. Rest. You don't have to run anymore." Maria stood in the center of the room, her eyes wet. She hadn't known peace like this in years. That evening, Ethan invited Maria to join him for dinner in the apartment's open-concept kitchen. He cooked surprisingly well. Who knew billionaires could make spaghetti? Maria joked, cautiously playful. Ethan shrugged. "When you grow up with nothing, you learn how to feed yourself early." Over dinner, they talked. Not about trauma, not about pain, just simple things. Favorite movies, Noah's Name, the best meal they ever had. Maria confessed that she'd once been a nursing student before everything collapsed. Ethan listened, really listened. And for the first time in years, he felt something peaceful. That night, as Maria tucked Noah into the soft new crib, she kissed his forehead and whispered, "We're safe now, my love. Just for tonight, we're safe." In the hallway, Ethan stood quietly unseen. He didn't interrupt. He just turned and walked back to his room, his heart strangely full and breaking at the same time. The days that followed were quiet, but healing. Maria was slowly adjusting to life off the streets. She would wake up early, prepare Noah's bottles, help clean up after meals, and even offered to help Ethan's staff, though he insisted she didn't need to. Ethan, on the other hand, found himself drawn into a strange rhythm, one that felt more human than anything he'd experienced in years. There was something grounding about Maria's presence. She didn't pretend to be anything she wasn't. She didn't ask for favors. And most of all, she didn't seem impressed by his money. That intrigued him. Every morning, Ethan would drink his black coffee while Maria sat across the counter with a cup of tea and Noah in her lap. Their conversations grew longer, lighter, deeper, until one morning Maria finally said, "You must be wondering how I ended up on that street corner." Ethan didn't nod. He didn't press. He simply said, "Only if you want to tell me." Maria took a deep breath and began. "I used to be someone," she said quietly. "A nursing student. I was on track to graduate top of my class." Ethan listened silently. "Oh, then I met someone. He was charming, powerful. He promised everything, a future, love, family." Her eyes clouded. But the man behind the smile was someone else entirely, controlling, angry, violent. She paused. Ethan's jaw tightened. "I got pregnant. When I tried to leave, he made sure I lost everything. My scholarship, my apartment, my reputation. He knew how to make things disappear." Ethan clenched his fists. "And the police?" Maria gave a bitter laugh. "And no money, no power, no proof. I was just a bitter ex to them." She looked up, so I ran. "I've been running ever since." There was a long pause. No one spoke. Then Ethan quietly said, "I'm sorry." Maria looked at him surprised. Most people say, "Why didn't you leave sooner?" or "You should have been smarter." "I know better than to judge a survivor," Ethan said. Their eyes met, and for a brief second, something unspoken passed between them. Respect. Pain, but yeah, understanding. Later that evening, Maria found a folder left on the counter with her name on it. Inside were fresh identity documents, a medical license reapplication form, even an apartment lease, signed and ready for 6 months of free housing downtown. A note read, "And no one should have to start from zero alone. This is not a favor, it's a beginning you've already earned." Ethan Maria stood frozen, hand trembling. She never expected this. Not from a man she barely knew. Not from a billionaire who had nothing to gain. Maria knocked on Ethan's study door. She held the file in her hands. "I can't accept all this," she said softly. "You can," Ethan replied. "And you will." Tears welled in her eyes. "Why are you doing this for me? Really?" Ethan stepped closer. He looked tired, but honest. "Because I was you once. Not a mother, but lost, alone, invisible. Someone gave me a chance. And I promised myself, if I ever had the power to give that to someone else, I would." He looked into her eyes. "And I see you, Maria. I see who you really are." In that moment, Maria wasn't afraid anymore, and Ethan wasn't alone anymore. They didn't hug. They didn't confess anything dramatic. But something between them changed. Subtly. Profoundly. The next morning, Maria told Ethan, "I'd like to accept the apartment, but not just as a gift. I want to work." He smiled. "I thought you'd say that. Our company clinic has an opening. I made some calls. They're expecting your application." Her eyes widened. "You're giving me a job?" "I'm giving you the chance to earn one," he said gently. Maria's smile grew. It was the kind of smile you only see on someone who has found hope again. A week later, Maria packed her few belongings, just a single bag and Noah's things. The apartment Ethan arranged for her was modest, bright, and safe. It wasn't luxury. It was home. As she stepped toward the elevator with Noah, Ethan walked her down. "Are you sure this isn't too sudden?" he asked. Maria nodded. "I need to learn to stand again." He handed her a small envelope before she entered the elevator. Inside was a spare key. "To my place. In case you ever need anything." She looked at him, stunned. "I hope you never use it," he added. But I want you to know it's there." Tears ran silently down her cheeks. As they closed, Ethan did something unexpected. He stepped forward and gently pressed his forehead against Maria's. Just for a second. No words, no promises. Just presence, and that said more than anything either of them could have spoken. Maria's new life started quietly. She joined the Graves Tech private clinic as a trainee nurse assistant. Though she had once been at the top of her class, she now worked with humility and gratitude. Learning the systems, taking care of patients, and always arriving early, Noah thrived too. His health improved. His giggles filled the apartment, and every Sunday Maria and Noah visited Ethan no longer as guests, but as friends. Still, neither Ethan nor Maria ever named what was forming between them. They kept it gentle, slow. Real, it was a rainy Wednesday afternoon when Maria saw him again. She was on her lunch break, sitting at a small cafe near the clinic, Noah bundled in her arms. Then Jason walked by, the same man who'd once destroyed her life, the charming abuser, the father of her child. He stopped in his tracks when he saw her. "Ah, Maria," he said, his voice slick and sugary. Oh well, look what the rain dragged back in. Maria froze. Jason smirked. So what now? Playing nurse again? Or are you someone's pet project?" Before she could reply, he stepped forward. Still got my kid, huh?" Maria's voice shook. "He's not yours anymore." Jason leaned in, threatening. You think a billionaire makes you untouchable. They get bored, Maria, and when he's done with you, you'll come crawling again," Noah whimpered. Maria backed away, but not fast enough. Jason grabbed her wrist, and just then, a black car pulled up the curb. Ethan stepped out, raincoat flapping, eyes dark with fury. He didn't speak. He didn't shout. He simply walked over, took Jason's hand from Maria's wrist, and peeled it away. Calm, controlled, deadly. She's not alone anymore," Ethan said, voice low. Jason laughed nervously. "Look, man, I was just a leave." Jason hesitated. Ethan leaned closer. "You know who I am. You know what I can do. If you ever come near them again, I won't say it twice." Jason left. Quickly, back in Ethan's apartment, Maria sat trembling. Noah had fallen asleep. "You didn't have to come," she whispered. "I did," and said, "because I care. Because this isn't just about safety, it's about dignity." "Yours." "His." She looked up. "You saw me when no one else did?" He gave a soft smile. "And you reminded me who I was before all the money." They sat in silence for a moment. Then, gently, Ethan said, "You don't have to run anymore, Maria." "I'm not," she said. Not anymore." Weeks passed. Maria was now a full-time assistant nurse. She moved into a better apartment. Ethan helped her get, but insisted on paying rent herself. She built a new life. She stood on her own 2 feet. And then one evening after dinner at Ethan's, he brought out a small box, not with a ring, but a note. It read, "No grand gestures, just a simple truth. I want you in my life. However you choose, as a friend, as a partner, as family. The door is always open." Maria read it slowly, then looked up, tears in her eyes. She smiled and nodded. A year later, Noah took his first steps in Ethan's garden, laughing as he ran toward Maria. She caught him and lifted him high. Ethan stood beside them, hands in his pockets, heart full. They weren't a traditional family. There had been no wedding, no headlines, no social media, just love. Earned, chosen. One rainy day had brought them together, and now, under a bright morning sun, they stood unshaken. 3 people, 1 story, and a future no one had expected. Sometimes the people we help are the ones who help us heal the most.